April's jobs report showed more than 20 million Americans lost their jobs last month, sending the unemployment rate soaring to nearly 15%. And while those numbers are expected to be temporary, experts say the ramifications from coronavirus could last for years to come. I do want to bring in the CEO of Dynamic Money, Chris Burns, to talk more about the impact. Hi, Chris. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Let's go ahead and start off on that record-breaking jobs report. Record-breaking in not the greatest way. Many people, though, are saying these are temporary losses, but recovery will, of course, take time. How long do you think it'll take the U.S. economy to be able to recover from coronavirus?
Yeah, for a long time we heard about a V-shaped recovery. This concept was, okay, things will drop off, but then they'll come back quickly once the virus is under control. But now most economists are looking at what they call a swoosh recovery, which is, it was a steep drop, but kind of like that Nike symbol, it's going to take a long time to get back. And the reason for that is really that you have multiple factors in recovery. One is, of course, the virus being under control. The second is government regulations. But even if everything goes well and you tell a restaurant you can open up, the third and most important part is consumer behavior. So will consumers go to that restaurant, to that happy hour in a crowded bar, for instance? Will consumers jump on a flight across the country? If those things aren't happening, even if you lift restrictions, you're still going to have a much longer recovery.
A new study from the National Bureau of Economic Research said that 42% of workers experiencing recent layoffs will be suffering permanent job losses. What are your thoughts on those alarming numbers and how this U.S. economy will be shifting post-coronavirus?
Yeah, so we've seen two shifts, right? One is consumer behavior, which is going to determine how we have recovery. The other is businesses' behavior. And so the assumption that businesses who've been forced to change dramatically, so maybe they've changed their whole style and they're now they're using virtual meetings like we're doing right now. Are they going to want to go back and go to their commercial real estate offices, or is that whole industry going to go downhill, right? Those are the kinds of decisions as businesses have had to shift out of necessity that then long-term impact how they rehire. And so we can't make this assumption that all the folks, the 30 million plus people who have filed for unemployment, are just going to be able to slide back into those positions, because everything's fundamentally changed.
We talk about the change that's happened in the business sector, but there's also been a change in new jobs that are being created for a post-coronavirus economy, jobs like contact tracing and things like that that are directly related to this problem. Will they be able to suck up any of the losses that we'll see from a shift in how businesses function?
I think definitely a certain percentage. I mean, if you look historically at things like this, where we've had to see society change dramatically, so for instance, the Industrial Revolution, right? There were new jobs created and capitalism writes itself. So in essence, capitalism helps us understand supply and demand and this whole concept of, well, there will be new demand for new types of jobs, but it's going to take time. And so, yes, I think in the short term, some new jobs have been created. And I think it's really important for individuals who've been laid off to sit and go, how can I be resilient and plan for a different future? Please don't sit and plan for, well, it's just going to go back to the way it was. Companies aren't thinking that way. So if we want to make it, we have to think differently now as we look forward.
And looking ahead, May's jobs report is expected to be pretty bleak as well. And as always, the April report did only cover the first half of the month. What kind of upward revision in the losses could we possibly see for April? And then what are you thinking we could see for May?
Yeah, well, just from the April numbers we had, we're already looking at the worst month we've seen since they've been recording unemployment. Now, they didn't record unemployment in the Great Depression, so we haven't gotten to that point, but about 15% unemployment just through April alone. And so if that's revised upward, a lot of economists have talked about 20+% unemployment happening within the next month to 2 months. And if that happens, we're kind of in uncharted territory. Again, I'm a strong believer we will come back and we can be resilient. But I think we have to have a timeline in our minds that's realistic for that and not based around even political considerations, right? Because right now everybody's thinking about the election in November, when in reality this recession and coming back from it's going to be a much longer process.
All right, Chris Burns, CEO of Dynamic Money, joining us live to discuss the impact of the coronavirus outbreak on the U.S. labor market. Thanks so much for coming on the show today.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Want to see more videos like this? Click on the link below and subscribe to One America News on YouTube, and call your cable provider and kindly demand that One America News is added to your lineup. Call and subscribe today.